we tend to compartmentalize when we start to have health issues.
Well, I didn't know that.
Food is the new tobacco. You can go and exercise all you want, but if you're eating bad food, you won't get very far. We are what we eat, but we are what we absorb.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Medina, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very good. We're very glad having you today on our IC podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And I will let you present yourself to the viewers and the listeners.
Okay, my name's Madinah Yate, and I've studied naturopathic nutrition. I'm now a qualified naturopathic nutritionist, and I see clients online and in person. I studied that for 3 years, and prior to that, I was in the field of I'd say charities and mental health.
Amazing.
So I have a background in psychology, undergrad in psychology, and a master's in psychiatric research. And I worked in with youth in mental health, and I also actually taught for a year, like A-level psychology as well. So I did a few different things, and then I became a mother. And postpartum, I suffered a few health issues, and I started exploring alternative therapies.
Wow, and
but it was a long journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was at the time in Australia, and then I moved back to the UK, and I took the jump because I found there's a course here that was right up my street, and then I didn't look back.
MashaAllah, mashallah. So, first of all, I'm very happy to have someone who's very intelligent to speak to today. MashaAllah, a Muslim, hijabi. You studied psychology and also nutrition. Those are my best topics, to be honest, to talk about. And then it's amazing because when you combine psychology with nutrition, food, health, and the body, I think we don't find these kind of skills grouped in one person.
Yes.
It's rare to find a person who have these skills.
Yes, I agree.
So tell us first, the psychology and nutrition. Well, what should we as a Muslim community know and use to better our lives? But first of all, let me dive in. What are the most I would say the worst maybe problems that as Muslim communities for women and men facing on a health scale?
Okay, just to start off, generally, aside from being Muslims and things like that, we tend to compartmentalize a lot of problems. As you said, psychology separately, they don't teach you about nutrition. There are courses now, and obviously undergrad courses in the UK, where they dive into, they have a module on nutrition, how it affects the mind-body, the mind and body connection. But we tend to compartmentalize when we start to have health issues. So you'll go to a specific person, or a GP will refer you to a specific person. And unfortunately, health doesn't work like that. We're holistic beings, and my course is very much, it trains me to be a holistic practitioner. So I look at every individual as an individual in terms of their genetic makeup, biological makeup, their demographics, male, female, age, their medical history, everything. I take all of it into account, and I look at that person holistically, and then use all the tools that I've been trained with. So traditional medicine tools. So on my course, we focused on TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, and also Ayurveda, which is the Indian traditional roots. We obviously have our own traditions. So we have Ibn Sina, we have our own Islamic traditional medicine, which I've read about myself. But obviously my training was focused on those. And then those are integrated with functional tools. So functional testing, and also my clinical tools in how I assess your body systems.
Let me ask you this, Madina, before diving in, because this is very important for me to understand and for the viewers and listeners. So when you say holistic, what do you mean? Do you mean that if we have, for example, something which is not functioning correctly, the chemicals that we may use, it's not necessarily the perfect way to heal that organ or that specific dysfunction in the body?
When you say chemicals, you're referring to medical medications.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So medications have their place, especially when someone has become, their disease has developed to such a point where their body can't function without it. But unfortunately, we live in a time where medication is overprescribed, and also it's not prescribed properly, or the dosages are wrong, or it's not necessary, because a lot of diseases, a lot of illnesses, a lot of problems are preventable and can be reversed. And typical examples of that are diabetes. So these kind of lifestyle diseases, obesity, diabetes, digestive problems, a lot of them are lifestyle disorders. So they shouldn't be managed with medication. But there is a place, and it's usually when you've got to a desperate point. But I work with a lot of people who are at a desperate point, and I work through all the spectrum. Someone who has mild symptoms to someone who's very, they've got multiple diagnoses. And usually once we have one diagnosis, other problems tend to crop up, and then we get another diagnosis. When you mention Muslims have a unique problem with food.
Because we love food.
We love food, and it's because it's a Muslim's indulgence. We don't have alcohol. We don't tend to smoke as much as the other populations, although we do. It's still it's not looked down upon as bad as
even
obviously
female
if you were
Muslims.
Yes,
ladies, they smoke. Unfortunately, sometimes children also.
So, yeah, children. Yeah, unfortunately, they're vaping at the moment. Yeah. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Teenagers and vaping. Vaping is very bad for you. It's worse than shisha. When it's heated up, chemicals that are released into your lungs and you're taking into your body, that's very detrimental for long-term health. You might not see the effects now. I think that's the problem with the youth. They don't understand that all these things like toxins in food, there's a lot of toxins in food, they won't show their effects right now, and you think that's fine. But they will show their effects 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. And the difference is, my generation and the older generations, they would get sicker or have diagnosed diseases much, much later than what we're seeing now. When I was in school here, I would never see a child age 9 with obesity or even overweight. I can count on my finger one in my class in primary school who was overweight. But unfortunately, these days, it's just so common. And problems, as in Muslims, have this unique problem in the sense that they indulge and overindulge in food because they don't have other indulgences like alcohol, partying, releases like emotional releases. So that's their indulgence, and then they go too extreme into that indulgence. So gluttony, overeating, is a big problem in our community.
What does that mean, gluttony?
Indulgence in food, but food that is not necessarily good for us.
Like, for example, let's give examples, for people so they know.
Okay, so highly processed foods. And highly processed foods tend to be packaged foods.
Okay.
So foods which have had multiple processes, multiple steps to change the chemical structure of the original whole food. So the wheat is over bleached. Different agents are used to make it more palatable. High salt and sugar content, which the combination of high salt and sugar together is very highly palatable, and it makes you want to come back for more. And then you add in fat into that combination, it's highly addictive. So food is the new tobacco. It's the new
drug.
Yes. And people don't realize, because we're surrounded by the advertising, and it's hard to get away from. But if you add into that mix the how would I say, the uneducation surrounding the medical system and how it's overused as well, and overdiagnosed, overprescribed in terms of medication. People don't understand the multiple attacks on their health. So you've got the food, you've got the medical system which is not supporting people adequately, And then you've got the environment, so sedentary lifestyles, sitting too much, overuse of screen time. All these factors have led to a very diseased population. And then a diseased population tends to think that this is the norm because everyone is being diagnosed and everyone is living with the same problems. So this normalizes what would previously be thought of as a very big problem.
That's a very interesting point, Madinah.
Yes.
But I would say, like, to be fair to our medical system, I know, and I heard it before, that all the scientific researches and advancement in biology research, like toxicology and everything, is not necessarily reflected on the medical system very quickly. So, for example, you will have a scientific paper come in this year, for example. Those findings won't be necessarily applied the same year. You can wait 5, 10 years, 20 years maybe, and then the medical system will apply the same method they used to apply before without considering these new findings that may say, this method might be not good for your health, or we found some findings which are saying that it raises toxicity or something for certain chemicals. So the problem is there. But also, we can't deny that our medical system is also helping people to cure themselves, but also people play a huge role in not getting sick, first of all, in being aware, and also not overusing our medical system, not abusing our medical system.
Yes, of course. In this country, we're very blessed to have the NHS, which is a free medical system, and it does help people who are at the very end of the tether. They're very, it tends to help people who are very sick, and obviously there's high waiting lists and things like that. I'm talking more about the approach. So it's more the medical system, the conventional, I'm not talking about private, it tends to focus on obviously symptom management. So we're just trying to keep you alive, or to keep you functioning. Pain-free and functioning, so you can go to work or you can get on with your usual daily life. But it's not necessarily to cure you. Right. Because nutrition is the cornerstone of health, and it is the key to cure you. You can go and exercise all you want, but if you're eating bad food, you won't get very far. You might build a few muscles. You might be really fatigued because of the lack of nutrient content in your food. Most of the food nowadays lacks in sufficient nutrient content, and that's not just because of the processing of the food. It's also because of the monocrop culture. So even our soil is depleted. Our soil is depleted of magnesium, depleted of iron, multiple vitamins and minerals that we need to use to function on a daily basis. And that's why I also use supplements. But the difference is I don't use synthetic supplements. I use supplements that our bodies recognize. They're whole food supplements, and it works in synergy with our body. So our body knows how to use that. Just like how when we eat whole foods, our body knows what to take from that food and what it doesn't need.
Is that what we call bioavailable?
Yeah, so bioavailable means that so certain supplements, they require, once you ingest them, the body then needs to convert it or to do something to it. Some supplements are more bioavailable because that process has already been done for you prior to you consuming it.
Right, okay.
So,
why I'm mentioning this, because sometimes you'll find tons of these videos online. They would say, take these seeds or this supplement or this food because it's full of omega-3, it's full of magnesium. But then when you go and dive deep in the reality of things, you will find that type of magnesium, that type of element mentioned, is not bioavailable for you.
Yes.
So your stomach can't digest that particular food, and you can't use that tons of magnesium, for example, in that specific food.
Yes, so you've hit the nail on the head there. So there's actually supplements, a lot of synthetic supplements, which is just basically expensive pee. So you're paying for something and you're peeing out the majority of it, probably 80% of it, because your body cannot absorb it because it's not recognizable to your body. Either it's synthetic or it's not bioavailable, or it's not good quality, or the type. So there's all different types of magnesium. So there's types of magnesium which will help you calm yourself before you sleep. There's other types of magnesium which are good for calming the muscles. You can use it topically or as a spray. There's other types which just to increase your general serum levels in your body. All these things, obviously, I take into account when I'm seeing a client. But obviously, the main focus is on changing your food habits and getting you to eat more whole foods. And that's the main thing that people need to be working on. And supplements are an aid. They're a tool, just like all the other tools I use. And obviously we want to get you to a point where you're not really necessarily needing that many supplements. Of course, we do need them because of the lack of nutrients in our food these days. But they are a tool, and you can't rely on them. I have a lot of clients, they'll come and they'll just want me to recommend supplements. And that's not how it works, because I work holistically. And it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, when you mention these supplements and these nutrients and the food and everything, the first thing that comes to my mind is our diet as Muslims. Let's say in this country, for example, majority Asian Muslims.
Yeah.
So we know the diet is rice, it's curry, lots of meat, barely any fish. I'm not talking about myself. I'm from Tunisia. I love fish very much. But yeah, this is the majority here in this country.
Yeah.
And is that food enough to stay healthy and shiny and energetic, or not?
So a lot of South Asian Muslims, they do consume a lot of foods which are high in unhealthy oils. So sunflower oil, canola oil, different oils. Ghee is better for you. But obviously,
why ghee is better?
It's closer to, because it's obviously produced from milk, and it's closer to a natural whole food. But obviously, it depends on the type of ghee. When you overconsume these foods, your body, I think, well, with South Asians, they're having more of unhealthy oils, so they're going to have more problems with like cholesterol and obviously overweight, obesity, and things like that. So with those type of clients, I would be suggesting fish, but there's a caution there. So just with every type of client, they have their own cultural habits, their own ways of eating, and I work with that. I work with how they can improve small habits on a daily basis to better their outcomes, but also based on their disease or their condition or whatever they're diagnosed
so
with.
You're not kind of forcing them to change drastically the diet they have in, but to work around it instead.
Yeah, the idea is to take things slowly, and there's better ways of living, and then there's best ways of living, right? And there's an optimal way of eating, and I'd say I'm 90% there, but again, and so you have to start slow. You can't just like with exercise, you can't suddenly just start lifting weights like 50 kg and then you have to start slow. It's the same with diet. You need to accustomize your body to new foods and also new ways of eating. And also if you have a certain level of satiation, like you usually have to eat 2 bowls of food to feel full, then it's not going to work for me to say to you, have half a bowl, So I work with what I have, and every person has a journey with health, and you have to look at the past, their history, their medical history, and then you can work towards their future. It's never a quick fix. A lot of people do want to come to me and they ask for a supplement, a magic supplement, or it doesn't work like that. But I will work with you if you're prepared to work. And a lot of people, they can get results in 4 months, some in 6 months, some takes a year. And also there's this concept in naturopathic nutrition is how long you've had the disease will determine how quick it is for you to heal or to come out of that. So if you've had a disease for 3 years, it might take a year and a half to heal that.
Mm-hmm.
If you've had it longer, then obviously we're peeling back the layers in your health. That's very important for people to understand.
Yeah.
And another thing is we're in an age where there's a lot of information about diet and nutrition, a lot of people giving conflicting information. You have people over promoting the consumption of meat because they want to go against the agenda of, I'd say,
vegetarian and vegan?
veganism, because they want to lower, the consumption, the whole consumption of meat worldwide, because of environmental issues. So that you have a very big push on these kind of nutritionists who have emphasized on protein and meat and things like that, which has its place. And then you have other areas where they overemphasize on other things. But my approach is about balance. It's about finding the balance and also creating that balance in your body. And you can only create that balance when you understand someone's biological makeup, their history, their medical history, their body constitution. We also work with that as well, and so many other things, and obviously testing as well.
What about psychology?
Psychology, obviously, it plays such a big part.
Food and psychology. How does food affect your mood? That's the question.
Yeah. So with Muslims, again, we have this big relationship with food, which there is a big emotional relationship with food, and it does come back from childhood experiences and memories and things like that. And so it's both positive and negative. So there could be the negative side of having to always finish our food because of this scarcity mindset. Muslims have this sort of scarcity mindset. Or there's the other coin. It's all of our social events are around food, and the focus is food. And so that makes it really hard for someone to change, because your environment really does play a big role.
True.
And
I'm going to tell you another thing, Madinah, sorry to cut you off there, but in my country, I'm sure they do it here as well. If we have a guest, for example, if we are invited as guests, and if the person there doesn't fill the table with multicolors of food there, we might think that he's not happy to have us as guests. So the norm there is to have many food and multiple types of food there. So oh my God, he really was happy to have us there. So it's a cultural element there as well.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to know the individual. I mean, because people know I'm a nutritionist or a naturopathic nutritionist, they might expect that I'm caring for them if I offer them healthy foods when they come to me. But obviously it depends on the person, and it's also on all of us to change that culture. You can always make better options available to your guests. So you can provide that processed food, the biscuits or whatever else you want, but then you can alongside that make a nice display of healthy options, a colourful plate of fruit and veg. And that's
possible.
Another way.
It's possible.
It is possible to change these things.
It is, but let's come back to psychology now. I think depression, anxiety, this is like a hype now, making the hype. So what's happening there? What sorts of food that makes us more anxious or more sad? What's happening there?
Okay, so the cornerstone of health is your digestion, and a lot of people suffer with digestive problems, and that can actually be one of the reasons why we might suffer from certain mental health problems. That's one reason. And it's also overlooked a lot of the time. So people might go to medical professional and they might be diagnosed with a mental health problem, and actually it might be related to nutrition. Which was a very big area of interest for me, because I didn't realize how much of an impact nutrition made until I came across it and I started suffering my own health issues. So I had a big psychology background, and then when I found nutrition, I realized it's such a big piece of the puzzle which is missing. There's different areas of how food can impact your mental health. So ultimately, long term, you're looking at your main body systems, like your digestive system and your nervous system, and to support those adequately so they can support your brain. So there's this big gut-brain connection. Obviously, if our gut isn't adequately functioning, then that affects our brain health. But then there are also lots of areas and lots of foods that can support a better mind in terms of a happier mind, a mind with better more serotonin, more dopamine, and all these neurotransmitters that we need. But food provides the vitamins and minerals, or the precursors that we need to then make those neurotransmitters that support our mental health. And we all know now, there's lots of research coming out about the against the hypothesis that depression or anxiety is caused by a lack of serotonin or lack of dopamine. These are now being debunked. So you have to look at the person again as as an individual.
It's deeper than that, and it's
yes.
bigger than that. The issue goes back to the gut, actually, maybe to the bacteria living in your gut.
Yeah,
isn't it?
So that's another thing. A lack of diversity in food, in whole foods, can lead to a lack of diversity in our good and healthy bacteria.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. So if you have diverse food, you will have diverse microbiome in your gut.
Yeah. So diversity in whole foods, obviously not diversity in ultra-processed food.
Yeah.
So when we say diversity, so it would be having a different type of the same food. So like different types of nuts. So having a selection of nuts in your hand when you're snacking, having different types of apples. So if you have like a green apple today, have a red apple tomorrow, but not just a green or red, maybe different varieties of apples. Shop in fruit and veg store, and then maybe sometimes you get it from the supermarket, but don't always get it from the supermarket. Maybe try to go for farm produce, things like that. Experiment with different types of...
That's the point, Madinah, because some people, they don't want to experiment.
Yeah.
The mindset that I'm hearing from friends, and families, that I like this food and I will stick with this food my whole life, and I don't want to explore, and maybe I won't like it. This is the point. So they will be just stuck in one thing, one type of fruit, one type of food, one type of recipe, for a given food.
That has its place. We do need good food habits, and to have our bodies to know what to expect, to know that it's going to expect to have a certain amount of carbohydrates, for example, during the day, because our bodies can overcompensate if we're always in this state of not knowing like what when we're going to have our next meal or that kind of thing. So regular meals are important, and also our bodies knowing that we're going to get the right and adequate amount of carbohydrates, proteins and fats, the basic macronutrients. But saying that, yes, you can't just survive on the same biryani day in, day out, because you're going to lack a lot of vitamins and minerals, and you're going to lack the diversity that your gut microbiome needs. And because of the way our food is produced and monocrop culture, the bacteria available in foods, the diversity is also being depleted. So you need to make an active effort to counteract that by either consuming probiotics, good quality ones, which has a lot of different strains. And there's also targeted strains of probiotics. So if you have a specific issue, like for example, in the digestive system, if you have IBS or if you have reflux, I might suggest a different strain of probiotic or a different brand, because I know that works better for you, because I know what you're lacking. And we can also do testing to see what strains of bacteria in your gut are overpopulated and which ones you might need to populate more. And that will determine what I might recommend. Of course, again, this is all about prevention. If you eat a diverse range of foods, whole foods in their whole form, so the more
Not grinded and not processed.
Yeah,
That's the meaning of whole food.
Yes.
As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it.
Yes, as you would pick it from the tree or take it from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get those foods and you can home cook as much as possible, batch cook as much as possible, that's going to set you up to prevent you from disease and to help you thrive. And we don't just want to prevent disease, we want to thrive, we want to be optimal in terms of our health. Our bodies are an amana, a trust from Allah, so we really do have to take care of what blessings we've been given.
Absolutely.
If you've been given the blessing of being able to walk, some people can't walk. If you've been given the blessing of having a healthy body, then you really should take care of that blessing. So probiotics are generally safe. Supplements are the ones that you can actually do some damage with. So if you start experimenting with supplements and you don't understand your health issue and you don't understand what you lack, you can overdose yourself just like a drug.
Right.
Probiotics, not necessarily. Probiotics. So when we're looking at probiotics, there's different types. So there's live probiotics. So they're more likely to survive when they get to the gut.
Mm-hmm.
So that's better quality. And then the other ones, obviously, if you're taking them consistently, then some of them are going to survive and they will get to your gut. And it's about providing your gut, your microbiome in your gut is like a garden, and you need to nurture it and water it with different variety of strains of bacteria. And the best way is obviously through food, and you can do that with different probiotics. So there's all different types. It depends really on the individual.
But here my question is, so if I'm going to take my probiotic, I'm going to be dependent on the probiotics my whole life, or will they stay there, the strains will stay there, be instilled there in my gut?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to that strain?
So with the lifestyles that we live, unfortunately, most people need to go on a course of probiotics and then maybe 3-6 months later go on another course. And also I recommend using different probiotics, rotating. So I might suggest going on a probiotic for 3 months, and then after 3 months, maybe after 6 months, put you on a different one to increase something else, another strain. It is about maintenance because of the lifestyles that we live and because of the lack of diversity, again, in the bacteria in our food. And if you had an optimal diet of whole foods, then no, you wouldn't need it. And if you consumed natural probiotics from fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi and all this, you wouldn't necessarily need something targeted like that. So it really does depend on the individual and their lifestyle.
I see. Mashallah, Madinah, I see that on top of the information you're providing, and I'm enjoying this conversation, by the way, I see your passion in the field you're working in. And I'm just curious, where is this passion coming from? Sometimes, our success and passion comes from personal experiences.
Yeah.
Did you have any personal experience that pushed you to work in this field and to expand your knowledge and then make people benefit from it?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many personal experiences, but it was a collective thing. So I became a mother and I struggled with a few things postpartum, but also having children, you learn a lot about the human body and how to nurture, a baby up until, and also seeing everyone around me suffer from different health issues and normalizing it. And I knew it wasn't normal because I've also had a very natural upbringing. I was very in touch with nature. I was raised in Norwich in the UK, and I was surrounded by different pick-your-own farms. I used to just fill up, strawberry buckets and then eat on, survive on that for a whole morning, go swimming in the river and then jump into the deep end from a little mini bridge, and cycling outside, soaking up the vitamin D. All of that, I had that basis, so I had something to refer to. I knew that whole foods was obviously the cornerstone of health. I'd been obviously, that seed had been sown when I was young, but obviously I'd steered far away from that when I was older, and obviously I think I'd forgotten that, and I'd forgotten those natural wisdoms and our own innate wisdom to be more in touch with nature, to be going back to whole foods and things like that. So my personal experience is I did have a history of IBS, and I didn't recognize that developed. It wasn't a diet, one day I woke up with IBS, or after a few months I woke up with IBS. It developed because I wasn't taking care of myself, and I wasn't taking care of myself in terms of stress-wise and in terms of food. But when I really started to notice that I'm not well is obviously after I had my first daughter, I started getting skin issues. And I didn't make the connection with my gut. I just assumed it's to do with the hormones, pregnancy hormones.
Right.
But obviously it's all related. And as I started to heal my gut, those skin issues disappeared. And also slowly other things started to improve. And then I started recognizing other issues I had, which started improving. And now, so there's levels of health. And now I've got to something else I'm working on. So as practitioners, we also have to constantly reflect and work on our own health. And that's the cornerstone of obviously being a good practitioner. And once I do the best for myself, then I know I can do the best for my clients. And obviously that's how it works.
Absolutely.
So that's my history and my story. But obviously I was seeing so many postpartum mothers suffering as well, being diagnosed with autoimmune conditions.
Right after pregnancy, right after giving birth?
Yeah.
I heard a lot of cases like that, actually. And what is the reason for that? Why?
I mean, there is a big stress component, obviously, and because of the lifestyles we live. But I think people don't recognize that these diagnoses, they don't just happen. There is a development in disease. So you've probably been eating bad and having a bad lifestyle for 5, 6, 7 years, and you become accustomed and used to that, and you think that's normal. And then when you're diagnosed with a condition, you think it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't come out of nowhere. And also we've been conditioned to think this way because we compartmentalize disease. We medicate, so we suppress symptoms, and then we don't recognize the warning signals in the body. So symptoms are just a warning signal. Symptoms simply our body saying, hi, I need help. And then you suppress that and you ignore it, and it makes it worse. So a lot of drugs, they suppress problems, and then they go deeper into another body system, into another problem. So, for example, with skin issues, corticosteroids are highly overprescribed, and that just suppresses the problem further into your body. It covers up the fact that your body is trying to show something to you, or trying to get rid of toxins. It's trying to release something through the skin. The skin is one of the largest organs. It's telling you something, but you're suppressing that. So you need to start asking questions, become curious, don't blindly trust. Some people just, some practitioners, some people they just do their jobs because that's the way they've been trained, and that's what they do. It's a day job for them. They tell you what they think you're meant to be told, and then they give you a medication. You need to be more curious, take more ownership of your health.
But Madinah, some people will go like this: oh, let's be positive, don't complicate things, it's just a skin rash, it will be okay, I'm going to apply a cream and that's it. Don't try to overthink, because if you overthink, you will end up with that disease. So some people say that.
That's another thing, hypochondria. Yeah, a lot of people... There's also the other end of the spectrum, which is that people over-experiment with different herbs and foods and supplements and things like that, and they get way too into it, and they lose the focus of other areas of their life which could be helping and supporting their health, right? That's obviously a big subject as well.
And another subject, but I'm talking here about like how they ignore the symptoms, and they don't want to think it through, and they don't want to confess and to admit that there is a problem with them inside, so they just ignore it with a cream or anything that can suppress the symptoms, saying that, oh, I'm busy, I can't do the doctors now, or I'm fine, I'll be fine. And then
Yeah.
the problem will get more complicated over years.
Yeah.
And then I think you explain to me if that's, you tell me if I'm wrong. And then when the woman gets pregnant and then gives birth, because the body will be depleted,
Yeah.
pregnancy in itself is a hard work for the woman body.
Yeah.
Then you have less minerals and hormones and the roller coaster, for the body. Then if you have any problem, it will show up, I think,
Yes.
after.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
I mean, that's one way of taking care of yourself. Doing things topically is helpful because our skin is an organ, obviously, and there are ways to support it topically as well. But obviously the root cause of the issue is usually gut when it comes to skin issues.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was saying, I was referring to skin because that's a warning signal. It's usually like at the end when your body's really screaming because there were probably issues that you didn't notice before. Like a lot of people, they're not in touch with their bodies. They don't check their stool every day. So a lot of questions I ask in clinic are, how often do you go to the toilet? What is the consistency of your stool? Sorry, not a very
No,
pleasant
that's
subject.
Yeah,
What's the colour?
Important.
What's the smell?
Yeah.
What is usual for you? How do you feel? Do you get flatulence, bloating, things like that? And all these things depend on the individual, what's normal for the individual, right?
Mm-hmm. Do we have a general normal when it comes to going to the toilet?
I mean, we have the Bristol stool chart, which is something I refer to. It's just a chart of what a normal stool should look like. But again, depends if you're male, female, your age, lots of things. It depends on the time of month for women as well.
Oh, wow.
So just before your period, sometimes people get a bit of diarrhea. That's normal if it's one day.
Right.
But if you notice a trend and it starts increasing or things like that. But the point I'm trying to make is when you are not in touch with your own body, you don't recognize those signals initially. But then when it's on your skin and it's visible, and it's for women, stuff that's visible is when it starts to get really concerning for them, because if it's on their face, then, that's when they're like, okay, I have to do something now. Whereas if they were getting headaches and if they were getting hair falling out or gut issues or bloating or something like that, or backaches and things like that, they wouldn't listen to those initially because they would be ignoring them. Because it's kind of normalized, these things. Back pain is normalized a lot of the time.
True.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my experience as well. So I think 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, I suffered from an acute digestive system problem. And I think it's because maybe the quality of the water, maybe because of the diet. Well, but to be honest, I was always trying to eat healthy, always.
Yes.
But I don't know what happened that it made my digestive system extremely irritated.
Yes.
So I would come in the middle of the night and I would feel like pain and I somehow like vomit, and I don't know what's happening with me at all. I have no idea. So I started to search and to look and to read about it and to experiment with my food. So sometimes I would say, okay, maybe it's because of this spice. This spice is the reason. I'm going to cut the spice off, just put it in the bin, throw it away, and let's test another spice. Maybe it's because of this or that. So I was like that for maybe 1 year. And then the pain is still there. And I tried traditional, food, like in Tunisia we have the dried fig, and I think that helped me a lot, with the pain in my stomach. I felt, this is what I felt, reconstructed the internal membrane of my stomach somehow, but the pain was still there. The feeling lethargic every day is still there. Many issues, like I was not feeling happy. Even my mood was not very good. And then I was looking, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Please, like, send me something. Like, I need, until I met you, in totally unrelated, circumstances. And then when I knew that you are a nutritionist, I was like, oh my God, this is the person I'm looking for. And then, subhanAllah, when you gave me all those advices and I started to apply them very, very strictly. And and I started to see the results. And even now I am looking every day, what is this the food I'm going to add to my diet that will feed the microbiome in my gut, that will make me feel happy, or anything else which is healthy. So for me, I cut lots of fried food. I try to eat use the olive oil, lots of veg. Maybe 90% of my food is vegetable salads, and then I would put something on top of it, and diversification as well. I do that without being conscious that it's gonna make my my bacteria in my gut diversified. So that was very good, and it was thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala first of all, and then to yourself with those priceless advices that I didn't have a clue before, how to eat or what to eat and when.
So now you're flying. I can see the changes.
Alhamdulillah.
So with your case, we did target certain things at the beginning because you came at a point where you needed a lot of support, and then once you've had that support, you can then implement all the other advices, the general advices that I was now just explaining about diversifying your diet and all these things to continue to improve your health. And you will continue improving because now you have the tools. You can start flying.
Absolutely. And also I would emphasize on the gut health. And alhamdulillah, now when I smell the fried oil, my body will recognize it as is not pleasant. Is that I would never go there and eat a certain type of food because it's just my senses kind of heightened.
That's what changes as well.
Exactly.
Your taste buds change when you start to change the habits of what you eat.
Exactly.
And one of the clear and obvious signs of if you've started changing is your sensitivity towards sugary foods. So some foods, initially they might not satisfy your sugar cravings, like dates won't be enough. But as you start to change your habits, you'll notice that something which would satiate you initially in terms of your sugar craving, one bite of that will feel quite sickly and quite heavy. And that's because your taste buds have changed, because your eating habits have changed. And that's also an indicator of how far we have gone in our eating habits, because now people will eat a whole chocolate cake and then they'll still not feel that's enough. And that's an indicator that you are relying on sugar too much, and your body is too used to eating like that. So
it's amazing how our body is very flexible and can change. And there is nothing impossible, but it's reversible.
A lot of disease is reversible. You'd be surprised.
Tell us more about that, please.
I mean, even back problems can be related to nutrition. Lack of magnesium is such a big one these days. Our soils are depleted in magnesium. Stress is depleted. Stress depletes magnesium, and if we supplement, we can sometimes see immediate changes just in back pain. Other areas, headaches obviously is typically related to stress, but it can be related to a lack of specific nutrients. And
lack of water as well, dehydration
as well. Simple changes people don't realize, like now the hotter weather's coming, summer months, we do need to increase our hydration, and you can tell by looking at your stool. So start being in touch with your body more.
Absolutely.
Recognizing the signs early. Then you won't need to spend years healing. You'll only need to spend a few months
to heal. Okay, since you are with us today, this is a big opportunity for me to know the secrets, if there are any, of superfood that can just I can go to the premium, phase of nutrition. What are these foods?
I say generally all people nowadays need a sort of omega-3 supplement, because we lack as much as people may try to increase like chia seeds and walnuts and different nuts which have good healthy fats, omega-3 fats in them, as well as fish, they still don't get an adequate amount, and the ratio in our bodies between omega-3 and omega-6 is always out of balance in the lifestyles that we tend to live. And so supplementing with omega-3s is usually a good thing.
What does omega-3 do in our body, first of all?
Omega-3 is a good healthy fat, and we use it and we convert it into different other fats that our body needs. And we need good quality fats in our body to produce hormones, and hormones contribute to all different kinds of things like healthy fertility in females, the neurotransmitters we need to to focus and to have a healthy brain. So many reasons to be having omega-3s. It's endless, but we really do need to be focusing on that. There's other areas like in the UK, a lot of people lack vitamin D, which you can get in certain types of foods, and you can also supplement with that. We don't.
What are these foods, Madinah?
Mushrooms, which are brown mushrooms, chestnut mushrooms which tend to be darker in colour,
right?
Because they've been under the sun a bit. Those tend to have a bit of vitamin D too, and you can also get it from oily fish, salmon.
Right.
It's a difficult one because as with females, I work mainly with females, and female Muslim women tend to cover, and the best place to get our vitamin D is to absorb it, and then once we absorb it, our body converts that into vitamin D. So once we absorb the specific rays from the sun, the good ones, then it converts it into vitamin D. But we don't expose our bodies to the sun enough, and because of that reason, we really do have to supplement, especially if you're living in this country. Unless you have a really on-point diet and you're really like going for the high vitamin D foods, which I very much doubt, then yeah, it probably is very important to supplement. There are so many other supplements that women especially need to be focusing on, but I wouldn't want to mention them because, again, it all depends on the individual.
Yeah.
And you can't experiment with these things. Even vitamin D, you can't experiment with that. Have to know your levels. Have to know,
absolutely,
lots of different things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Any natural food that you would recommend we just put in our daily diet, perhaps, to have better results in focus, better mood?
I think generally we all just have to include more salads and greens. Yeah, so the majority of people in Western culture, they have overconsumption of beige processed foods, which are sugar laden as well. So there's overly processed bread, and then there's all the different sweets and cakes and croissants and all these things, and packaged foods. Those kind of foods are overly consumed, and so to compensate that, we have to think about consuming more salads, more greens, and those kind of foods are also higher in fiber. And fiber actually has multiple benefits. So when you consume more fiber, it makes us feel fuller, first of all, which then will lead us, then we're less likely to overconsume those other types of foods, processed foods. And also those kind of foods which are higher in fiber, fruits, vegetables, different kinds of greens, those kind of foods will have a more diversity in bacteria, and that will feed our good bacteria in our gut. That will also impact all our other health systems in our body.
Right.
The gut is the cornerstone of health. And so if you can just focus on adding a few more different greens into your daily life, a salad with each meal, a different vegetable, try asparagus today, try cauliflower tomorrow, try some beets, some root veggies.
But for some people, it doesn't taste that good.
Yeah.
Salad, so I'm just going to live on salad? What do you say to them?
You can't just live on salad. I mean, a lot of people need their protein. They need their good quality fats, especially women. Women need good quality fats for good quality hormones. So we have a regular cycle. One of the cornerstones of good health in women is a regular cycle, and not just a cycle that's regular and on time, but also having less PMS symptoms before, and also having a good quality period. How long does it last? Is it heavy? Do you have symptoms during your period? What is the color of your, your menstrual blood? All these things are indicators of health. If you have a good, healthy cycle, that's a very good indicator that you have a good, healthy body.
So the pain before the menstrual cycle is not like a good thing?
So PMS is also another thing which is normalized in our society. In traditional cultures, PMS would be something quite rare, and it would be PMS maybe the day before is okay. The day before, to have just a bit of a headache, a bit of sort of discomfort around your abdominal area or your thighs or something like that. That's normal. But if it's prolonged, it's excruciating. It's lasting 3 or 4 days before your menstrual period. That's when you need to be thinking, okay, why is my body showing me these signs? And don't always just put it down to genetics. Oh, because my mum was like that. Why was your mum like that? What was her lifestyle? What are her habits? All these questions you need to be asking. Become curious. Always know that just because something has always been like that doesn't necessarily mean it always has to stay like that. That's for all areas of health.
I knew some people in Madinah who would go to hospitals because of the pain, and that's a regular thing. The friend of mine at university, every month her father knows that this is the time that he will take his daughter to the hospital because of the PMS. Yeah, and that was like a strange for me. Is that painful? Like us, but for me, I said maybe that's normal for her. And as you said, we normalize things. We never question, what happens to our body and to us. Yeah. And it's quite interesting because, sometimes you feel the pain, sometimes not. And you're thinking, oh, what happens? Like, I didn't feel any pain this month. But the last month, like, it was atrocious pain. So what's really happening in our body to feel that pain?
So women, it's very complex. Again, you need to look at their lifestyle generally. Exercise can really help with PMS, but the type of exercise is very important. Not to overdo things. If the gym isn't suiting you, you need to question why. You need to look at different forms of exercise to support yourself before your menstrual period, like stretching exercises, yoga, Pilates, all these kind of things. Nutrition, it comes down to what is the balance in your body, what kind of nutrients are lacking, and what have you got a high number in. So have you got high omega-6s that will really impact your hormones? That's a big one. So again, supplementing with omega-3s. Low iron can exacerbate the PMS symptoms. So magnesium, lack of magnesium, that's a very big one. Low magnesium can, make the pain around, the abdominal pain and the thighs and things like that before the menstrual period, that can be increased if you're low in magnesium. Topical sprays are really helpful for that as well. So many different nutrients that you need to take into account. So again, it's complex and dependent on the individual.
What about athletes? Okay, so say I love swimming myself, and the problem I'm finding with swimming is the stamina. I don't have a big stamina, so after 100 meters, after 50 meters, I'm completely gone. My breath is gone. I can't carry on unless I have to relax a bit and take a breath and then continue. And I find it sometimes frustrating because I see sometimes these very young ladies, or even old ladies or men, they just, mashallah, swimming like, mashallah, like sharks. Stamina, amazing. And I look at myself, oh my God, I got 150 meters.
But mashallah, you're swimming, you're doing what you need to do, and you're working your muscles. And that's the main thing. You don't need to be looking at what other people are doing. Wherever you go to a Pilates class, you go to the gym, you go swimming, don't look at what other people are doing. Say, I'm here, alhamdulillah, I'm taking care of my body. That's enough. Right?
Compare yourself to yourself.
Compare yourself to yourself.
That's
and
good,
what you
that's
were
a good
like
point.
yesterday and what you will be like tomorrow. You need to be looking at it that way. All of the things to do with stamina, again, it's baseline vitamins and minerals. So obviously, if you are low in the basic ones like iron, vitamin D is so important for bone health, and we need to have good, strong bones to do all these different activities. All of those baseline vitamins and minerals, first we look at those. If those are all adequate, then that's fine. If you have a good exercise routine and you're increasingly you have quite strenuous exercise routine, then obviously you're going to be looking at other vitamins and minerals. You're going to be looking more at magnesium, you're going to be looking at creatine, you're going to be looking at a whole host of other things. And it might be best to, go and speak to a PT about that. And they would be best to advise you on, what is best for your level in terms of pushing yourself. But again, I would look at the individual. If they are into their exercise and they do a lot of exercise, then I would be providing more targeted supplements. And the main thing is with exercises, especially with women, you need to be increasing your protein. You need to have high protein content, especially if you're exercising. You need high protein content anyway.
Okay.
But you need to be ensuring that's adequate. It needs to be increased based on your body, your age, and your exercise level. So all of that, a PT can advise, but I obviously I do more targeted work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need you to be honest with me on this one, Madinah.
Yeah.
So protein. Is the powder protein that we buy from outside is a protein, or is a chicken, normal chicken, grilled chicken is protein? Which one is the real protein?
Well, obviously I'm going to say the chicken, the real chicken.
But the other one is labeled protein.
Yeah, protein
branded
powders. So obviously it's a big industry, and protein powders also have a lot of bulking agents. They have a lot of other substances in them with also, some of them can be really high in sugar to make them more palatable and tasty.
Right.
You have to be really careful of the brand. And also that's another thing I do. I advise on the brand of different foods and different supplements and things like that. And I would advise on different options, better options. So if you are someone who works out regularly and you need to have a good quality protein powder, and that suits your lifestyle and your way of eating, you like to make smoothies often, then I'll give you advice on that. But again, protein powders, you need to have a good quality one. And also it's difficult with Muslims because it has to be a halal, which is very rare. And then you have to look at the vegan and vegetarian options. And a lot of them, they use pea protein and things like that. But all depends on the individual. And again, I'm just going to keep saying whole foods are better for you. So if you can get the whole chicken, the whole fish, the whole food,
that's the optimum.
That's the best way of getting protein into your diet.
That's the optimum. We just have a few minutes, Madinah, and I would like you to share the most valuable advice you would say to our viewers and listeners when it comes to taking care of their body in terms of food, and obviously that's connected to their mood and psychology.
Just take one small step every day. If that just means not having, replacing a few biscuits with your tea with some dates and some dark chocolate, but the rest of your meals, they might not be that great. If it just means that one small step, I promise you, when you start doing that, you will then become more optimistic and you will want to work on all the other areas of your health, and you will want to take that step. So just take one small step in your health, even if that's exercise. As a nutritionist, I know that 80% of health 80% of health is nutrition, and then exercise is the top up. That's the ultimate, But even if you can just exercise as well and you can't change your diet, take that one small step every day and just go for a walk. Even if you can't change anything else, just go for a walk. Honestly, you will start to see changes, and that small change again will create that spark in you that there is I can get there, I can reverse disease, or I can improve, or I can, and that I can attitude will just make you flourish. Honestly, just one small step.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
So one small step at the time, with consistency.
Yes.
Know that everything in your body is reversible, inshallah. And food is key for like a balanced.
So cornerstone of health.
Absolutely.
Food is medicine.
Yeah, food is medicine.
And also, it's not just food is medicine, it's also we are what we eat, but we are what we absorb. So many people have digestive issues these days, and they think that, if they pop a supplement or if they eat a few kinds of foods, good foods a week, that'll be sufficient. If you're not absorbing those foods, and if you have issues, digestive issues, which is a big thing. I'm confident in working with clients with digestive issues. If that is something that's happening, then obviously you're not going to get the benefits. You are what you absorb. You are what you eat, but you are what you absorb. So really think about that as well. And never give up. You can always improve your health. Our bodies are designed to flourish and to improve. We're designed, mashallah, like the way Allah has created us is to heal. Our body always wants to heal. So when it starts showing you symptoms like headache and gut issues and skin issues, it's telling you, I want to heal, and you're ignoring it.
Subhanallah.
So
it's our
you
fault.
can heal.
It's our mistake. Subhanallah.
Yeah.
Well, I learned so much today, mashallah. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we can do 10 episodes of this, just talking about food and nutrition.
I love talking about nutrition.
Mashallah, because it's so important. And we need a healthy body, we need a healthy spirit, we need a healthy brain, so we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He wanted us to worship Him and to enjoy life. And that would help us with our education, business, life, relationships, family,
mind, body and soul, everything is integrated.
Everything. Yes, absolutely. So I think taking care of ourselves when it comes to food is a necessity now, is not an option, and we really need to think like seriously about changing our habits, and if we need to go to experts, we just go to experts so they can help us. And don't shoot in the dark. Like you need to get there quicker.